For my final thoughts on the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0, I must insert some concerns about the pistol that others have voiced, although I can't verify those concerns with the short time that I have had with this pistol. The first concern is that many users have complained about the front sight not being centered from the factory, therefore throwing the sights out of alignment with the intended target, causing hits to be left or right, depending on the off-center direction of the front sight, or of the rear sight, for that matter. While I do agree that the sights should be centered, both front and rear, I also understand that the Bodyguard 2.0 is not a target pistol. It is intended for close-up, almost bad breath distance, personal work. I had no issues at the combat distance of 7 yards, except for my natural tendency to pull the barrel off course, especially with a short-barreled micro-compact pistol like the Bodyguard 2.0. In a worst-case scenario, it just might be that I am trying to control either the weapon of which the attacker is presenting to me, or controlling the attacker while pulling the Bodyguard from its holster to align with whatever opportune target of his is available to me, whereas sight alignment is the last thing on my mind. The second issue that I read about was that there was a tendency for the gun to be somewhat inaccurate, as rear notch is so wide that the shooter must be cognizant of where the front sight is exactly when shooting at a bullseye target or silhouette. Again, I defer to issue 1. I have fired a number of handguns as this journey of mine continues. I can only think of a small percentage of handguns that actually fired true to aim without adjusting anything. Most took some Kentucky alignment, adjusting for windage, elevation, or both, on my part, for shooting at a bullseye or silhouette target, especially if the firearm that I am shooting belongs to someone else or are range rentals. For me, I found the sights on the Bodyguard 2.0 adequate for my eyes, and anything else is up to me to make it work well enough to consider one for self-defense. One other issue was that the magazines are extremely hard to load after about the 7th round. I routinely read that the 10th or 12th round is almost impossible to load into the magazine. I have kept magazines I own full for a few days before a range trip, but I am convinced that my using the Uplula magazine loader is easier on my aging thumbs than the strength required to load multiple rounds into a magazine. So, getting to the Bodyguard 2.0, it is a vast improvement over the Bodyguard 380. Better trigger, better front sight, better grip, and better handling. So much so that I believe the Bodyguard 380 is going to be traded in for a Bodyguard 2.0. And that's all I'm going to say. And with that said, I and you face the end of this review. I am happy that you stuck with me. I hope to see you again for my other journeys. Until we meet again, take care of yourself, be vigilant, be armed, and be safe out there.